So, hi Mike, how you doing?
I'm great, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. Obviously, I know who you are, but for the sake of everyone on LinkedIn and the people that might view this, if you just want to introduce yourself a little bit and your background, that'd be great.
Sure. I got started after medical. I was in a medical field for a little bit, but then in
Hmm.
2005, a friend introduced me to the dental world and started selling the CEREC machine with Patterson and became a branch manager there and got the opportunity to sell an awful lot of technology at Patterson and Shine and
Yeah.
most recently at Sprint Ray, and been in this industry now for close to 20 years.
Wow. 20 years, that's a hell of a time.
It's a long, good time. It's a great industry to be in.
Absolutely. There's some fantastic people in this industry for sure. But obviously on this year, it's been a different and difficult year for a lot of people. How have you found the current market this year?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting market. You've got an awful lot happening with macro
Hmm.
factors. The cost of money, um, the rise on the DSO side of multiples, and then what the industry is seeing is just a shortage of people. I think those big things really kind of affect um, everything else that's gone on in our industry.
No, no, it has been difficult this year. There's no kidding that. I think a lot of people have struggled, but you've also seen a lot of people do well. There's been a rise of a lot of companies starting, particularly in the 3D print space, which we'll go on to shortly. But I just want to get your thoughts on, since you've been in the market 20 years, how has everything adapted and where do you see it going and continuing?
Yeah, there's no better time to be in the market than right now. I mean, I'm really optimistic about the
Hmm.
way things are going inside of dentistry. Back in when I got started, the only thing to talk about was CEREC. And then for the
Yeah.
next 10 years, it was CEREC. But you look at the technology that's all around us now in the dental industry,
Hmm.
and it's just amazing. And it comes out, new stuff comes out all the time. Intraoral scanners, which used to be $40,000, are down to $18,000. A cone beam for $55,000. We've got AI now helping us
Yeah.
with patient charts, 3D printing. You can take care of a patient same day. There is just so much technology
Hmm.
in the space for everybody to look at. It's like no other time that we've seen. It's really a great time to be in the space. Um, from where I sit.
Yeah, it's certainly the technology that's on offer now is phenomenal. I know I saw seen clips of the 3D printers working and how quick they can produce materials and things and resins and products is incredible. It really is next level. I know you've been a part of the DSO space, which is certainly a heavily growing area now. How important is that space, do you reckon?
I think it's really important. It continues to grow and grow, and I know it will continue to grow. There's still an awful lot of money for M&A in the
Yeah.
space, so we know it's going to continue. I think the challenge that a lot of manufacturers face is this is really a different business. The
Hmm.
digital space really is a different business. I think there's three things that are really a challenge. It's really hard to get to the right people inside of a DSO and get to those decision makers. There's so many people involved with each decision that whole process can be complex,
Hmm.
and then the ability for DSOs to incorporate this technology is not necessarily there. There's a few out there that are very large that have their own teams to do this, but
Hmm.
everybody else, they need the help of the manufacturer. So if the manufacturer is not ready and prepared to take that on,
Hmm.
you really got to kind of and wait till you're in a place to do that.
Yeah.
So
No,
that
definitely.
you really need your distributor to come in and help you, and you've got to work really hard with them to make it happen.
Obviously, it is going to continue to grow. How big do you think the space will grow? Do you think it will start to take over?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. It's like how long is a piece of string, right? It's hard to say. I think it's gonna, it's not gonna completely take over the industry. I mean,
Yeah,
becoming a dentist and having your own practice is still one of the greatest roles that a dentist can get coming out of
yeah.
school. There's still that ability to kind of have that authority and autonomy and do your own thing. So I don't know, maybe 45, 50%
Wow.
market.
Well, that is still a large share, especially compared to where it was years ago when DSOs weren't really a huge part of the industry. To get to that, that would be incredible.
Yeah, sometimes I'm a little too optimistic for my own good, but that's the number I'll throw out there, Tom.
No, excellent. Well, that's a hell of a number. And do you know what? I do see that happening. I think is especially this year's gone on, more and more people are speaking to me as a recruiter about DSO and wanting to get into that space. So it's certainly one that's coming in high demand for sure.
Yeah,
Moving
yeah.
on to onto 3D printing, it's an area that you've been in most recently at Sprint Ray. It's an area that we both know is very fast growing. It's a very interesting space. How have you seen the adaptations over the last couple of years since being at the start of Sprint Ray to where you are now?
Yeah, it's very impressive to see the adaptation into the market. When I first got to Sprint Ray, there was some big holes that needed to be filled, and one of the holes was, how do you design these things?
Yeah.
It was just a piece of hardware going into an office, and then they had to figure everything out. And with the design capabilities of not just the 3D printer companies, but now you're
Yeah.
seeing a lot of other companies jump in and help out in that regard. And then, the adaptation of the intraoral cameras or the intraoral scanners, merging with the 3D
Hmm.
companies and creating those links. Things have gotten easier and easier. And on the flip side, the materials coming out have just been amazing. I mean, there's a ceramic crown material out now. You're seeing materials that are coming out in the ortho space. They're getting there. I don't think they're quite ready for prime time yet, but they're certainly
Hmm.
close. And then on the denture side of things, a lot of new materials. So they're really covering all bases now
Yeah.
in the 3D printer space. It's been remarkable to see in such a short period of time. In less than 2 years, they've created a huge market.
No, 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 definitely. And I know when I speak to a lot of people, we often talk about is it going to be the future of dentistry? A lot of things will start to be made using a 3D printer. There's no doubt of that. But how far do you think that will go? There's talks of like implants being made by 3D printer. Do you think that will ever get to that stage?
Yeah, I think when you look outside of dentistry and see how far 3D printing has gone in industry manufacturing,
Yeah.
it's really impressive what they're doing with 3D printers. And so I think it's just a matter of time until it comes into our space in dentistry. I
Hmm.
really do think you're going to see, over 60% adoption of the
Wow.
3D printer in any practice. I mean, just for models alone, every practice they make models, and you can do it with your 3D printer and get rid of the dust and all the mess in the back room there. So yeah, I see the growth, over the course of the next 5, 10 years to be a long, long runway.
Yeah, no, no, for sure. And obviously, with 3D printing, you've got both the clinical and lab side of things, both very different markets, as you're aware of. Talk to me how they compare, and where which one's currently bigger than the other.
Yeah, I think the lab side is bigger right now in terms of
Yeah.
adoption. You've got a shrinking number of labs, and I think labs, it was a necessity for a lab to jump into the 3D printing space
Hmm.
than it has been on the clinical side.
Yeah.
And there's an awful lot of technology already in the lab space with milling and
Hmm.
all that. So this was a natural adoption, and they've got more time to devote to it, more time to learn it and become experts at it. And they really have done that. You've got so many big companies with really fast printers, in the lab space. And, now we're getting into automation on the lab side of things. It's really, really impressive what's been done there. And I think, when you talk about the adoption to 3D printing in the clinical space, I think 3D printing has just run into the same issue as a lot of other technology and a lot of other new things in dentistry, which is back to that macro thing of a shortage of people, a shortage of qualified people. I think that's been the major challenge for the clinical side, is getting people that can learn the technology and grow with it, because it's pretty simple. It is pretty easy, but they're just struggling to find front desk people at this point. So
I was going to say, obviously, you was SprintRay, no doubt one of the biggest, if not the biggest name within 3D printing in dental. There's obviously a lot of startup companies coming into play. What do you think the challenges that they're facing at the moment are?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think, name recognition is one of those challenges. I think we rode the coattails of Formlabs to kind of create the industry. And we obviously have pumped an awful lot of energy into creating a brand, and made a name for SprintRay. I think that's one of the challenges that other companies are going to have is the name, is the materials. Unless you have the R&D budget to really focus in on these dental materials, I think it's a challenge there. I don't think so much on the design side. Like I said, there's so many third-party design folks, and then it's just choosing which path you're going to go. Are you going to go the distribution path where you're going to, leverage what the distribution channel has, or do you try and go direct, which, can be a challenge?
What would you prefer if you was leading a company? Would you rather go down that distribution channel or the direct channel?
Yeah, I think it's definitely the distribution channel. There's so many more relationships there. There's so many more salespeople, service people in the market. And I think the distribution channel has done a really nice job of creating this training resource that everybody needs, because it's technology. They need to have trainers that can go into the offices, work with them one-on-one. I think they've done a really nice job there. And even the folks that don't have people to go into their offices, they've created an awful lot of tools so that they can integrate these technologies into the office. And they're experts. They've become experts at the technology and how it works with everything else in your practice. So I think that's definitely the way to go.
Excellent. And then sort of one final note then, for anyone that's coming into the industry that might be new, unaware of how it works, do you have any tips for them on how to succeed?
Coming into the dental market?
Yeah, dental, 3D printing.
Yeah, I think, the easiest thing to do is just kind of look at the folks that have gone before and been successful. There's a lot of rock stars out there in the industry on the clinical side. If you go spend some time with them, there's so many resources out there that people are putting out. The 3D dentists, there's so many of them that I would just spend a lot of time learning the technology and learning what it can do, and kind of immerse yourself in it and become an expert.
Excellent. Well, leave it on that note. Perfect.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.